Welcome to Film Majors. I'm your host, William Stewart with the Hoosier Network, and this is a show breaking down film of Indiana sports, or some of the biggest collegiate games in the country at the time, and we learn why the game went the way it did. Now, we covered this game a few weeks ago. We did this lesson, I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. I was wearing the exact same outfit. I washed it since, don't worry about it. And you're all smart students. I'm sure you can figure out what matchup we're in store for at this point. It's Indiana-Purdue, this time at Assembly Hall for the second time this season. Roll it! The first time these two played this season, Purdue won 81-76. Braden Smith couldn't miss a pull-up jumper, and Indiana couldn't keep the intensity that they needed to keep throughout the whole 40 minutes of basketball. On Sunday, it looked a little different. Indiana just upset Michigan State. Purdue's coming in on a 3-loss streak, and it's the 40th anniversary of Bobby Knight hucking a chair across the Simon Scott Assembly Hall court, and Mike Woodson somehow, I don't know how, he sourced the chair, has documentation that it's the chair, decided to sit in it for the game on the sideline, booster seat and all. So there's a bit of a different aura to this matchup the second time around, this matchup this season. Let's go to the film and see how it panned out, but I'm sure you all already know, but we're going to break it down even deeper. First shot of the game looks a lot similar to what we saw in Mackey Arena. Braden Smith coming off the screen, pull-up jumper, but he bricks it. And it's important to keep in mind that look how Indiana's fighting down low. And now the Purdue pick and roll, always lethal. TKR, we're going to go look back at that because Indiana's problem this season has been on pick and roll defense. Leal can't get around the screen. You see that he's about 2 steps behind Braden Smith. So this time, it's actually renewed. He steps up from off the block because he's not playing on top of TKR. But the issue now lies within the help. Goody has to sit down here inside the half circle instead of stepping up. Renew can't close out. Easy floater for TKR. Indiana's kind of had that problem all year where they're not communicating well enough on screens and on the pick and roll. Granted, it's a pick and roll. It's tough. You've got 2 guys that are really good in the mid-range between Braden Smith and Trey Coffin-Wren. We'll see how that plays out later in this half, but Indiana for now is still getting beat by it. The other thing is Indiana's also very good at the pick and roll. You've got Gallo and Renew here, but a great cut there, or a great roll, I guess I should say. Some off-ball action from Luke Goody, able to get Indiana's only 3 of this entire first half. You see where he's starting. He's starting out buried in this corner. His matchup's not really watching him. He's totally ball watching this play here. And Goody takes note of this, able to roll. And he also has to play on Malik Renew, who is playing really well down low in this game. Granted, it's still early, but that's one of the things that Purdue wanted to take away. And that is why Purdue has to take away the paint, because otherwise, an All-American center is going to dunk on you. Straight on somebody's head. So Purdue's main keys for this game was to take away the paint for Indiana. Obviously, they weren't doing it well early in the first half because Indiana's up. They're up 6. But that's because Indiana's had one big in the whole game. Renew was starting, Ballo was on the bench, and Baca was on the bench because that's a lot of the main scoring. But Indiana's wings and the versatile guards that they have were able to play really well off of them. You'll notice is they switched to that. Ballo's here, Renew's over here in the corner. So just keep in mind the 2 bigs are back on the court and just watch the score box. But we're going to get back to the action. It's going to be Braden Smith coming off a double screen here. You got Heidi and TKR on a roll, and Heidi ends up with a wide-open shot. Carlisle stuck in no man's land. Great play from Purdue, and not great defense by Indiana. Now we're cutting later to the end of the first half, and you can see the 5-point differential of Purdue has now really started to make a comeback and has taken the lead back from Indiana. And what wasn't helping was Indiana's defense, but there was still a lot of bigs on the court. Granted, now Renew's back in, but Braden Smith, a confident 3-pointer, just drills this one here. But the command that Purdue had coming down on this break on the fast court, they've got even numbers. It's 3-on-3, 2 trailers. And Smith knows how to navigate it. He's drawing the attention of the Indiana defense. You can see that they're all trying to close in on him. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them here. Gallo stuck to Lawyer because Lawyer's probably the biggest shooting threat on the court outside of Braden Smith. But Braden Smith knows this and says, oh, okay, Colvin's wide open. He's been starting. He's been shooting really well for Purdue. I'm just going to give it to him because Mbako's looking back at a different way. Swing it back, catch and shoot, drill it right in Goody's face. Next play is another really well-commanded fast break by Purdue, but it's a little different. Colvin ends up taking that jumper, and that would be the end of the first half highlights that we have. Because Purdue's just playing well at this point. They went into half. They're up 37 to, I think it's about 25 or 23. And Purdue ended on a 19-4 run. That's why there just weren't very many Indiana highlights at the end of that little segment after Bala was able to dunk on somebody's head. The other thing to note, Purdue was shooting very well at halftime. 52% from the field, 55 from three, and 100% from the free throw line. Granted, it was like 5 free throws, but still, they were 100% from the line. It was an even distribution of scoring from everybody on the roster from about 8 different guys. Braden Smith wasn't hot from the field, but he was hitting his free throws. The other thing Purdue was doing well is they were rebounding. The rebound department, they were winning. They were forcing more turnovers, and they were scoring points off those turnovers, which is the same recipe that won Purdue that game in Mackey just a month ago. Indiana was shooting 40% at half on the other end of the court, which isn't bad. What is bad is 1 for 11 from 3. I mentioned Goody had that one made 3 where he had the good action coming out of the corner. Galloway was able to find him. They couldn't hit another one. And they didn't even get to the free throw line in the first half. Purdue was being very, very disciplined down low, not fouling, causing turnovers, and scoring off of them, making Indiana also have to shoot the 3 ball, which hasn't been great for the Hoosiers all year. At the end of the first half, they were getting booed and practically run out of their own gym. Painter and company knew defensively to force those outside shots, which they did, and IU obviously couldn't capitalize. The IU offense also was really stalling with those 2 bigs in the game. We saw Bala in and we saw Renew in, and the scoring had practically stopped at this point. Those 4 points that came during that 19-4 run is when it was one big. You can see Balo's the only guy down there in the corner. He's over here somewhere off my screen. And that was really the only time the Hoosiers could score. So at halftime, everything was going Purdue's way. The momentum, the ability to score, the mentality, just the ferocity. Meanwhile, Indiana was shooting themselves in the foot by not being able to get their lineups correctly. Now we're going to go to the second half and see how well does Indiana adjust. As you all know, Indiana adjusted very, very well, and they were able to run Purdue out of their own gym and kind of flip the script on them. But how did they do it? Let's figure it out. First play of the second half, Indiana gets back to that bread and butter. They go to the pick and roll. This time finds Rice in the wing, who's been kind of poor shooting the 3 all year, but he hits one, which is really a good sign for the Hoosiers because they were just lacking confidence. That's something they've been missing all seasons, is just the confidence to keep shooting. They took 10 threes in the first half, which normally they don't do, especially when they've only made 1. The fact that they can keep shooting is something that, I don't know what was said at halftime, but it sparked something for the Hoosiers to really just keep shooting the ball. Granted, they're also down 12, so these guys probably didn't care what happened. They just wanted to go play basketball. Now the next play, I can't fathom how Galloway made that pass perfectly. If I had dimes, I'd throw them on the screen because that was just a perfect ball. I mean, if you look at it, one right here, he should be in any passing lane. Leal's looking over his shoulder like a receiver. He's looking back this way, and he's tracking the ball, and one can't find it because Galloway places it perfectly behind him, kind of right in the free throw line, and Leal is a beautiful layup there. Indiana's starting to kind of gain momentum. And now here's what really is what the switch for Indiana was in kind of the second half, is Purdue tries to go to this pick and roll that they've been very successful with, but Indiana's communicating on defense very, very well. You see that there's 1, 2, 3 guys down here, all trapping Braden Smith, but Rice stays on the outlet pass, causing a drive, and there's still guys down low. Granted, Purdue gets the tip in, but that defensive ferocity was missing from Indiana after they had that lead in the first half. They just couldn't stop Purdue after that because there was just not enough intensity. They came out of halftime, and it totally changed the script. Now the next play is just impressive, really, from Malik Renew down low. He's double-teamed. He knows somebody's open. And guess who else knows somebody's going to be open? It's Galloway up here on the wing. He's going to cut wide open because Braden Smith's more worried about a three-pointer since Rice had already made one earlier in the half. And another just beautiful pass by Malik Renew. I don't even understand how he really got this off. I mean, he can't see anybody here. He's looking up here. That's where his cone of vision is. He somehow gets his head around, gets around not 1, but 2 Purdue defenders, and whips this right to Goody, who's hit one and now he's hit another, shrinking that Purdue lead into the second half. Now, this is a very good play from the Hoosiers here. You know there's momentum. You know guys are shooting well. And you know Purdue's off. They're kind of off balance. So Galloway starts down here in the half circle. I know I circled Leal, but that's practically where he started. A great screen here by Malik Renew. It allows Galloway to come out to the wing. And since the screen has already happened, Renew was able to get TKR on his back. He's stuck playing the high side. It's a great entry pass from Galloway. And there you go. There's the feed, the flush. Tie the game. Later on, Indiana's finally taken the lead at this point. Haven't had one since early in the first half. And it's another great pick and roll. A lob doesn't end up getting slammed in, but it's, again, Indiana just Purdue's too worried about the down low. They're dropping in coverage, and they're leaving guys open, and they actually start to have to worry about the three-point line. You can see that there's people getting marked out here on the three-point line. Galloway was marked by Fletcher Lawyer at this point. But a great finish here by Malik Renew as well. Big fella. Get the and one, flex on him. Why not? And there's our good buddy Chicken Man, by the way. I can't believe he got on CBS. That was mind-blowing. You're watching the TV, and this dude pops up. I think I got jump scared. I don't know if RC did. RC also knows Chicken Man, but RC's my director, by the way. We're going to get back to the gameplay, though. We're going to stop looking at Chicken Man. Another great play here by Indiana. They're back to running the double screens. And Galloway able to kick this one out to Rice. Rice gets the pump fake, able to drive a beautiful pull-up. Indiana was getting those double screens to really work their way. The pick and roll is always really there for Indiana because they have such great bigs. And Galloway's really seeing the court. And when he's seeing the court well, like he was against Purdue, there's nothing you can do. Now going the other way, Indiana's pulling away at this point. Purdue needs something. There's a couple actions down low. Fletcher Loyal gets a one-on-one, calls the pick and roll, pull up over Anthony Leal. And this is the highlight play of the game. This is the last one we're going to look at. It's another pick and roll by Indiana. Shocker. It's between an All-American center and an All-Big Ten guard. Just going to let the film roll. Go up there, big fella. Slam them home. Slam it home. Raise the roof. That was the ball game. Indiana ends up taking the W. 73-58 over the Purdue Boilermakers. Able to split the series 1-1. Just an electric win for the Hoosiers coming back in the second half. They outscored Purdue 48-21. It's ridiculous. That's the entire second half. They put it together. And that's the team that was projected to finish inside of the top three, the top five of the Big Ten earlier in the season. Indiana shot 65% from the field. They were 38% from three, and they hit 13 of 18 free throws from the line in the second half. That's things they weren't doing in that first half. That's why they were down so much. They didn't even get to the line in the first half. They were able to force so many fouls that they got nearly 20 shots off the free throw line. They were hitting threes. They were hitting those close shots that they needed, able to kind of beat Purdue in the paint, which is what Purdue wanted to avoid the whole game. But the one All-American big man lineup with these versatile wings and guards that Indiana has showed that they can kill any lineup in the country. Purdue's defense isn't what it used to be without Edey, but it's still halfway decent, if not good, in the scope of college basketball. But Indiana killed it in the second half because they stuck to one big. That's one thing you noticed throughout the film in that second half was that it's always Ballo or it's always Renew on the court, and it's not both of them. The other thing that Indiana's kind of been missing is effort. They played a whole 20 minutes in the second half, and they were there on both ends. We showed it on the defensive side, even though Purdue scored on the one clip that I showed, is there was guys hounding the ball constantly. I didn't show that they forced 11 turnovers or the 5 or whatever steals it was in the second half because Indiana's defense was just hounding them constantly. That was an Indiana team that was really possessed. The other thing is Purdue fell apart. They couldn't hit a shot. They were turning it over constantly, and they got into foul trouble. TKR fouled out a little, I think it was about halfway through the second half. They had guys with 4 fouls, which is what Indiana can thrive off of. And that's why we saw them pull away by 10 to 15 in the second half, because Indiana was able to get them in foul trouble, able to play down low. The other thing is that's the Purdue team that we've seen in these past 4 games. They're really just in a slump. It's as simple as that. Matt Painter could go deeper into his bench or give more minutes to the bench, but he's not because he's got the faith in those starters. Even though really, it seems like a slump. You know, Braden Smith wasn't able to shoot the ball well. Fletcher Loyer was the only guy, I think, who shot over 50% for Purdue. He's got faith in these guys. They've got 3 games left to get back on track before the Big Ten tournament in 2 weeks and eventually March Madness. And they still have the best guard in the country in Braden Smith. He's going to figure it out. And there's also plenty of talent on this roster. There's TKR, there's Heidi, and there's one down low. Those guys, they can all score. Heidi really does scare me. And then Colvin's also had a great year himself. Purdue's going to turn it around. They really are. It was a horrible night for them in Assembly Hall. The real question is Indiana. Can they keep it going? They've got 4 more games to play. They got Wednesday night, they have Penn State. They got to go out west. And they've got those 4 games before the Big Ten tournament. They're fighting for a higher seed. Right now, they're tied for, I want to say it's about 8th or 9th. And they're trying to just sneak in as one of the last 4 teams in March. And they can show up in that Big Ten tournament and actually end up making noise. The problem is, can they be consistent enough? Against Purdue on Sunday, they had everything but really 3-point shooting. They ended up shooting, I think it was 25, 30% throughout the whole game. And they still smoked Purdue. Now, Indiana's next game, like I said, is Wednesday night against Penn State. Purdue is off for at least the week. They've got a game this weekend. And they're both fighting for different types of spots. Purdue's trying to get a higher spot in March. They're about a 4 seed right now. Indiana's the first 4 teams out, fighting for a last 4 spot in. So look out for Indiana. They're a team of runs. They're streaky. Purdue's just off their game right now. They'll get back to it. I've got faith in it as much as I'm not supposed to like Purdue because I'm an Indiana student. They're gonna figure this out. Matt Painter and crew, they're good enough and they're experienced enough. But that will do it for this week's lesson. For the Hoosier Network, I'm William Stewart. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, have a great week and God bless.